Whole Women's Health still hasn't opened yet, and 40 Days of Life says they hope their prayers keep that from happening. Although the people who attended the ceremony did not know the 12 who were laid to rest, they all agree that they deserved a proper burial. According to the 2012 United States Census, there are more than 9,000 veterans living in Las Cruces. With that number continuing to grow, the clinic hopes to expand, offering more services and convenience to our veterans. With a record of 9-0, the Las Cruces Bulldogs remain undefeated. The Mayfield Trojans, however, hope to get their time to shine under these Friday night lights.
Other belief systems believe that we disappear into the dust and become another small chapter in the planet.
Funerals are always emotional, but there was an extra tinge of sadness this morning at St. Joseph's Cemetery.
My niece firmly believes that every star in the night sky represents a soul waving down to us all.
The only mourners there were county employees and the church deacon. Not one of the mourners knew any of the people who were being laid to rest.
That death comes, and people mourn, and memories drip into the ground in the form of tears.
All 19 were indigent. That means they had no money, no place to live. They were homeless.
Patrick Green, Victor Lee, Terry Richardson, Dale Rose.
They all died 2 years ago, and since then, no one has come forth to claim their bodies.
It's sad, really. It's sad that they didn't have nobody to claim them whenever they're in their need. I don't know, it's just, it's heartbreaking, you know?
St. Genevieve's Catholic Church has a contract with the county to bury indigents at St. Joseph's Cemetery.
It's an important part of our ministry to give these individuals that dignity and that burial process.
While Randy Manzanares fills the graves, Deacon Ramon puts things into perspective. He says while it's sad that nobody claimed these people, as a community, we gather to pray for them. The internet can put a world of information in our hands, but it can also help put alcohol into the hands of minors.
I got my fake ID from ID Chief. It's a website.
ID Chief is a website selling novelty IDs. It considers itself the #1 source for the product.
You had to take a picture that was certain dimensions and you had to upload it, and that was a picture that would be used for your ID, and then you had to come up with your information, type all that in.
Their IDs come complete with UV, holograms, and will scan by magnetic, band, or barcode. The website also has a legal page explaining that owning a fake ID is 100% legal, depending on how you choose to use it. Las Cruces police spokesperson Dan Trujillo says presenting false evidence of age or identity is a petty misdemeanor, punishable by 6 months in jail or a $500 fine, or both. The highest profile races are, of course, those for governor of New Mexico and U.S. Senate. And I found out this afternoon that regardless of who they voted for, the voters say it was their duty to cast their ballot. Was at Corbett Center at NMSU campus. Most of the people voting here were students, but it was also the polling place for several people who live in the area. Student Weston Corper had no trouble making his decision.
I voted for Susana Martinez because I feel like she is closest to what represents like my beliefs. And
Nathan Graff is a student, and while he wouldn't tell us how he voted, he says it's something everyone should do.
Well, any election is an important election. It's who dictates what goes on in our lives in one respect or another. And so I would say this election is just as important as the other ones, that everybody should get out to vote no matter what.
Of course, governor is not the only decision to make. Senator Tom Udall is being challenged by Republican Alan Way. Steve Pierce faces a spunky challenge from Rocky Lara. And there are all the statewide constitutional offices. Secretary of State Diana Duran and Maggie Toulouse Oliver, Auditor Robert Aragon and Tim Keller, State Treasurer Rick Lopez and Tim Eichenberg, Attorney General Susan Rydell and Hector Balderas, and Land Commissioner Aubrey Dunn is challenging longtime incumbent Ray Bennett Powell.
On Thursday, a man at a local Walgreens was charged for selling alcohol to a minor. Lee Agbulos was indicted by the grand jury after a local teen working with the New Mexico public safety officials went in an undercover operation at the Walgreens in Las Cruces near Picacho. The wired teen asked Agbulos to buy him alcohol by offering him $20 and, according to officials, Agbulos complied and returned with a bottle of Jack Daniels. If convicted, Agbulos can...
A drug used to treat attention deficit hyperactive disorder is becoming more and more popular with college students, but they aren't taking it for fun. Students have begun taking Adderall to help them remain focused while they study. Sold for a few dollars a pill, this drug is affordable and easy to come by.
And it's pretty easy for me to get. My friends have prescriptions, and a lot of the kids here at school have it.
College students don't understand how a drug that can make them more productive can be bad for them. But just like any drug, there are side effects that some Adderall users don't mind experiencing.
I do not eat on it, nor do I sleep on it, which I don't like, but I struggle to study.
For people who deal with ADHD, Adderall is used to restore the balance of certain natural substances in the brain, making them feel normal.
Adderall just brings me to a normal spot, and for other people, it brings them higher than that, so it makes them a lot more efficient and studious.
Students are even tweeting about their use of Adderall, often thanking the drug for helping them finish their assignments on time. Stephanie Chavez, News 22. He wants to be known just as Cat, and he knows what it's like to get around in a wheelchair. Most of the campus is more accessible now with curb cutouts, wider doors, and wheelchair ramps. But there's a new surface at New Mexico State that helps Kat get to class with ease.
It's like a scholarship for the disabled, freeing us to be more efficient in our studies and making more choices possible with free curbside service both on and off campus.
The Aggie Paratransit bus helps students with disabilities get to school every day. The bus provides curb-to-curb services, picking up disabled students at their homes and dropping them off in front of their class.
It took 45 minutes to get from Garcia Hall to O'Donnell Hall, and I'd be dead at my feet.
Cat doesn't have to pay for the ride. He simply schedules a time and the bus will pick him up and take him to class. The bus doesn't only help him with his grades, but with his social life too. Cat has been a student here at NMSU for 3 semesters. But this is the first time he's been able to enjoy the freedoms of living off campus and having a roommate. Stephanie Chavez, News 22. Twice a week, volunteers hit the road in a van headed north. These vans are used to transport veterans to and from their doctor's appointments at the nearest VA medical center, which is in Albuquerque.
We start at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we have to be out of the VA hospital about 2 o'clock. So we get home about 5:36.
The drivers pick up and drop off the veterans at their homes, also making stops in Hatch and Tier C. On a typical day, 4 to 5 veterans ride the van.
I get to meet other veterans, and I like to talk about war stories. And it's really interesting because you get to know a part that you never read in the newspaper about the veterans.
The Disabled American Veterans Organization donates the vans, and the VA pays for fuel and maintenance. Since the start of the most recent fiscal year, the Las Cruces van drivers have traveled 11,048 miles and have transported 73 veterans.
the night before I go, I am so excited about going that I can't fall asleep.
The volunteers don't get paid for their long days, but Barbara Wright says that driving the van gave her purpose. News 22, Stephanie Chavez. Dogs of all shapes and sizes celebrated the good nature of all dogs. This is the third year Action Programs for Animals has hosted Pits for Peace, hoping to raise awareness about pit bulls.
I think people still believe a lot of myths, and there's a lot of discrimination still, and the poor dogs really suffer a lot of abuse because of it.
Michelle has 5 dogs, and 4 of them are pit bull mixes. She says they're just like any other dog, and the most important thing is to treat them well.
I don't think you have to pay more attention to a pit bull than you do to any high energy, strong, powerful dog. So they need a lot of exercise, they need a lot of leadership, and they need you to be their leader and their guide.
The Humane Society of Southern New Mexico was one of the main sponsors of the event. They even had a place where people could get their 4-legged companion microchipped.
We're really pushing microchipping. We now are working very closely with the city and the county animal control trucks. They have scanners to use for microchipping to get the animal back home.
Those who were looking to add to their family, there were plenty of dogs looking for their forever home. While Michelle says her group does focus on saving pit bulls, she also does her best to make sure other types of dogs have a chance for a good life. Stephanie Chavez, News 22. The first atomic bomb was set off at New Mexico Trinity site in July 1945, and now people want to know if it's causing cancer. Researchers from the National Cancer Institute are trying to estimate the number of past and present cancer cases in New Mexico. They spoke with residents to learn about the lifestyles and diets of people who were living in New Mexico at the time of the bomb. The purpose of the study is to collect data on radioactive fallout from the blast. The federal government has a plan to clean up the troubled nuclear waste dump in southeastern New Mexico. The plan outlines what needs to be done to decontaminate the WIPP facility in Carlsbad. Shipments of plutonium-contaminated waste from around the country have been put on hold since February. That's when a truck fire and an unrelated release radiation forced the closure of the plant. The plant is the only permanent repository for waste like contaminated gloves and clothing from nuclear bombing. Officials say it could take up to 3 years to reopen the multi-billion-dollar site. Here's what that forum is all about. Violent clashes in Guerrero State on Wednesday ended with protesters capturing an officer. Juan Jose Gatica is the Guerrero State Undersecretary of Public Safety. Gatica's being taken hostage is raising questions on whether protesters have overwhelmed security forces in Guerrero State. Protesters are angry at the disappearance of 43 students in late September, a case Mexican authorities have yet to solve. The Southern New Mexico State Fair and State Rodeo has crowned 2 new queens. 16-year-old Chloe Long is this year's fair queen, and 17-year-old Jordan Morris is rodeo queen. 5 other fair and rodeo princesses from ages 5 to 15 are also wearing crowns today. The queens and their princesses will be very busy October 1st through 5th at the fairgrounds. They'll be passing out ribbons and giving tours, among other duties, at the fair.